I was in Oregon for this weekend. Oregon, that's the Northwest. And that is tree country, cheddar cheese country. Do you know that? That they're slanging that dirty dairy, you know? That they're slanging cheese, man. And you have to think about, when I think about that, when I just think about the fact they got a company up there called Tillamook Cheese. And if you go to the grocery store, you can see it. It's in like the fancy section, you know. Like they have all the regular cheese. It's all kind of like orange colored and looks like it was beaten maybe by some of its, parents, or looks like it was maybe jumped by a carton of eggs or something. Or it looks like maybe it was like kind of like the chubby cousin that nobody ever like talked to at the party for a couple decades. They got that area with those big blocks of cheese, and they got the slices, and those cheeses all stacked up, and a lot of you see, sometime when I was young, if we wanted a snack, Mom would hit us with that slice of cheese, kind of sometime even if they only had one slice left in the house and she liked one of us children more than the other, she'd kind of come over and hit you with that slice, or drop it in the back of your t-shirt, Oh, what is that, a snack? My mother had like little tricks up her sleeve like that, and she would drop like a little, hit you with that chili slice of cheese down the back of your shirt, and just, what is that, cheddar? Just slide that cheese slice down the back of your shirt, and you knew that you were the good child. You knew that you were the loved child for that moment in time. And you felt, and it was just a good snack. It was a good snack of cheese. You can break it off. You can cut it into squares. One thing I like to do was put 5 little holes in it and try to put my hand through it and make almost put my fingers through the cheese and almost make like a brass knuckles out of it. And then just cheese check one of my sisters or my brother, Just cheese check them right in the chin, son. Cock! Mom loves me more! You got cheese checked, brother, I'm having coffee. Guys. Good morning or good afternoon or good whenever you choose to consume this. That's up to you. But I am making it on October 8th and October 9th. And I was in Portland, Oregon for a wedding this weekend. And I'm going to get to a lot of things, man. I'm going to get to a few things. Got some emotional things that kind of happened this weekend. But I just want to start off with, I'm just thinking about love, man. I'm thinking about love, and I know that might sound a little bit gay or a little bit tender, but sometimes we have to think about it. Sometimes we have to put love at the forefront of our mind, because we almost sometimes use it as a tool in passing. I find, I see my brother or my niece, and I tell them I love them. I tell them what they mean to me. I love you. I let them know I love them. Sometimes I let them know more pertinently, and sometimes I just say it. But we just use it as a social media tool as well. My love. We use it at the end of a letter sometimes, almost as if it's something. I find that I use it as if it's something that I remember it being used in the past from one of my parents or from a friend or whoever, a step parent who sent me a card or a gift, and they meant it, So I almost use it as a traditional. It's almost like, oh, well, of course, if it's a family member, you finish off the letter with, love so-and-so. But I wonder a lot sometimes if we're practicing it. I wonder if I'm practicing it. And for me, personally, it's hard sometimes. I think I grew up personally without a lot of reflections of love out there. And so for me, I can feel it sometimes, but then I have to go forth and actually make an effort to practice love. And you can do that in a lot of different ways. There's a million opportunities a day to do it, and we're going to get into some of that. I just got emotions on my heart sleeves. I think a lot of us do, right now. I went up to Portland, Oregon this weekend. I went to a wedding. I had a beautiful date that took me up there. And it's a gal that, I spent some time with. And so she took me up there to this Portland, Oregon. And now, if you haven't been up there, they have clean air. Right when you get there, oh, man. I'll do another 8-ball of this, I'll do I'll hit another couple of lines of Mother Nature's fresh breath, break me off a couple of grams of that atmosphere, you know what I'm saying? I'm feeling flipped, and the air is so fresh, you catch a buzz, man, like if I see somebody breathing heavy, I'm like, damn, this dude's getting fucked up. He's getting cracked off out here. And it was nice, man. And the first thing that got me up there was the weather. Because for some people, the weather is starting. And you know me, I'm a proponent of early holidays. I'm ready for Christmas. You cannot even tell. Right outside of the studio, I have my stockings up by the fire. I'm ready. I like the holidays, I love them. And in Los Angeles, a lot of people don't celebrate them. A lot of people do not have any joy in their heart. So they choose not to celebrate. But I like to keep the spirit alive. But I was in Oregon, and I noticed the weather, man. It was getting crispy. And I was asking, does it snow here? And they said, well, sometimes, And it made me think back to the first time it ever snowed in my town. And I was playing basketball. I was on one of these regional, 11 and 12-year-old boys basketball team. Just fucking, I remember playing 3 quarters one time with the hardest boner you ever seen, dude. I mean, they almost technical fouled me, dude, just for playing too close a defense, saying I was being a pervert. I can't help it if you got my blood running out here on this sporting event and daddy's going to pop off a little in the crotch at the same time, If this dude don't want to get touched by daddy, tell him to go around. Tell him to beat me to the hoop. Because I can't help it if I'm out here erect playing a little bit of defense. That's where I'm from. I'm from the streets, son, where I bring my dick to the party. All right, I'm a man. And I remember playing basketball, and this was just that time, when everybody was just erections and pimples, just little pockets of sebum, just their pores all filled up with dirt, and their wieners all just filled up with blood and erection juice and sauce or whatever it is, however you make it up. That's up to science. That's not my job. But I remember it snowed. And it had been cold for 2 days, and there had been ice and stuff. And at halftime of one of our basketball games, it snowed. And literally, we came out of the tunnel from the halftime. Like, you go in the back, and the coach is, yelling and drinking and stuff. And the players are just kind of relaxing, or whatever, just being, 12 years old. And we came out, and the whole gym was empty, and that's because it snowed outside. And people were just bananas. They were bonkers over this new atmosphere. It was like the first time you ever seen a magic show. But like the world was putting the show on for you. It was like Mother Nature was just like, ta-da! And it was snowing. We never seen this. I mean, we're talking about the heat of rural Louisiana. We're talking about, I remember I saw one time a snake in the air. In the air, dude. I saw a raccoon one time sweating. Trying to drink a Gatorade. This is before they had Powerade, when they just had Gatorade. And so, next thing you know, everybody's out in the snow and everybody's having a good time. And there was one boy in our town, dude, and I don't know how this shit, this fucking dude, I mean, anyway, these people was pretty, white trash, really, and I'm no stranger to it, man. I'm 50% white trash myself. But these people had gone on a full 100 percentile. They'd gone all the way in. And the boy got hit by a icicle, and I don't know how, okay? The odds, but this thing lit him up. It was just like a rocket. And we'd had some stuff happen like this in our area. Galactically, we had one kid, I remember when I was really young, got hit by a meteor, took off his arm or part of his side. And there was a lot of questions about that. Some people say his daddy hit him with the car, but the story that ended up winning out was that he got hit by a meteor. And that's, and if his dad did hit him with the car, then that's between their family. But what they said was that it was a meteor. And now here's the crazy part is a meteor hit their yard. So, it's not like there was zero meteors and they were just saying they had, proof of meteors. And anyhow, but this boy, Barry Bear was this boy's name, Barrie, and then the last either Bayer or something, Barry Bear. And he got hit by a damn icicle. And his mom, and he was fucked. Something was wrong with that dude. I mean, he was never, they didn't put all the fucking, they didn't put all the cinnamon in his biscuit, if you know what I'm saying. Sometimes you had to tap him on the shoulder to remind him to breathe. That boy was just damn ignorant. It was like somebody had just broken his damn skull open when he was little and just snacked on whatever was in there and then just closed it up and forgot to put anything else back in there. That boy was coming in light, but you really almost had to pat him on the back, remind him to breathe. Or if we were running, sometimes you have to remind him we were running. Because he'd start walking fast and just not know how to switch gears, man. Something was wrong with his mental transmission is what I'm going to say. But he went outside running, whatever, wandering around. Who knows what the fuck he was up to. This little fella caught an icicle, man. And his mom, since that day of when Barry Bear hit that icicle, and I remember his family had this truck, and they had on the license plate said, they had Bear was their last name, so they had like a license plate that says 7 Bears, because they had 7 Bears in the family, 7 children or whatever, and they used to drive them all to church at the same time and file out of this van just like little Pentecostal like Pentecostal clowns. But his mother's always complained since, saying, he was my boy. He was never like this. He was going to go all the way. She'll say shit like that. She's just always complaining about that icicle. He could have gone pro. She'll say shit like that. And Barry didn't even play nothing. He could have gone pro in what? Being reminded to breathe? No. So that's the thing about, man. But his mother, ever since then, been yelling, complaining. He could have this and he will, he would have invented something. I remember her yelling one time at City Hall. He would have invented something. What the fuck are you talking about, Miss Bear? It just makes me mad. I'm getting to a point here. I know I'm dragging here, but here's my point. Is over the years, sometimes I think that when I look at their family now, and I see them from time to time, I seen them at the Burger King last time I was home. And I don't know if you ever been to a Burger King. It's a shithole, kind of masked in this kind of Game of Thrones cartoon kind of environment. And they but I saw them up there, and I saw just with them sitting by each other, and I could see that she still had in her head that everything that had gone wrong in her life had been this icicle, and she was still complaining. I could just feel if I went over and talked to her, she was going to tell me about it. Tell me about that sickle that hit Barry. That sickle took him down. Y'all could have been out there. Y'all was sports players, telling us. That's what she told us, the basketball team. Y'all could have been out there. You could have saved him. Bitch, I'm not a fucking meteorologist, you know what I'm saying? I'm not a defense tactician against cold weather and against ice and frozen water, But when I looked over at them, I remember the last time I saw them, and I'm going to get to my point, is that you could tell that she just been complaining about this. And whatever relationship she was going to have with her son, you could tell it had kind of lost, because I don't remember her being like that as much before. I remember being a little bit silly, but I remember her being a little bit more calm. But instead of choosing to just really embrace her son and embrace what was going on, she chose to just shout about it. and to complain and to damn just be fucking. He could have gone pro. He didn't play anything, ma'am. What the fuck are you talking about? And it just seemed like when I looked over at them, I felt like she was missing out on an opportunity to care about her son, to have a relationship with him. Because look, that eye shook him. I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. Cut into him, shook him. Only icicle I've ever seen, and from what I hear, pretty decent size. Just like a real skinny frozen shark made out of water. Just fucking bit him like in the back of the neck and the top of the head. And look, that's neither here nor there, whatever happened. But the choice she's made, Miss Bear, since then has been to complain. And to just gripe. And all the conversations I remember seeing, they're around her. They're all about, he could, this and that and the blame and pointing fingers. But what she's missing out on, to me, and this is just my perception, okay? I don't have to be right. But to me, it looks like she's missing out on an opportunity to love her son. And so that's what sometimes, anyway, so I'm going to bring this together, guys. I'm going to bring this together. Bear with me. But I remember that, and I remember that's one of the first things I remember about frozen weather and cold weather. And then I'm at this weekend, and I'm at this wedding, and you see they got beautiful examples of love out there. Just beautiful examples of love. And I never liked going to weddings. I think when I was younger, I didn't believe in it. Honestly, to me, it seems stupid. It seems stupid. Two people are going to get married. Oh, what are you going to do, huh? Go home together, Oh, everything's going to work out okay. You're going to have a fireplace, What are y'all going to have recipes and everything's going to be okay? I think some of that's just because growing up, you get wild, If your environment's wild, you get wild. And your brain gets wild, and your heart doesn't have any trust in it. And your heart's more of a brain than it is a heart. And that's trouble sometimes, when your heart wants to think. Because your heart's just supposed to feel, Your heart's just supposed to feel. And I was at this wedding, man, and it was beautiful. I saw they had a father-daughter dance, and they get out there, and they're hugging, and my date, her sister, was getting married, and so I'm right there in the thick of it. I'm right there. I'm like sitting by the dad while they have the father-daughter dance. I'm trying to I'm being like, how do I act at a marriage? Do I, I almost wanted to hold up a sign that said 8.5, 3.25 stars. I was I didn't know if, I had to turn off certain parts of me that wanted to judge, that wanted to act out, that wanted to, spray mace. I remember being at a party when I was young, and I lit that room up with a hit of mace while nobody was looking. And until you've seen about 30 just white trash people just, dance to some NWA in some there's a place by me, while crying at the same time, son, you really haven't seen life. Okay? And that's how I remember setting it off at a party. But here you had people loving each other, man. And this wedding didn't have any cake. I thought that was odd, and that shook me out of the beginning. But, I just had to be patient. I had to relax, and I had to not act out, man. I find sometimes when I get around instances of a lot of love, sometimes my choice is to act out, instead of to embrace what's going on. But this weekend I felt pretty good about myself because I chose to just sit there and watch people just, fall in love. I brought some gummy bears to the reception or to the actual wedding. Hit this old dude up next to me with a pack of Haribos, bruh. Had that dude bent off about 40 bears, dude. Had that dude bent out of shape, bruh. A couple of them had a little bit of extra in them, So I had this dude straight up kneeling, dude. Kneeling. He could have caught that bouquet in his mouth, dude. This dude was getting lifted, bro. He was turning into a dolphin, man. Had that dude lit. Lit, man. Burning his grits. But yeah, man, I saw a lot of love. So I saw a lot of love this weekend. And it was nice, man. And Portland's a beautiful area if you ever get to go up there. And I want to tell you guys right now, I still got a couple more stories, a couple things I'm going to talk about. But I want to tell you right now that this Tuesday night in Los Angeles, I'll be at the Hollywood Improv with some beautiful friends of mine, man. The powerful Joe Rogan is going to come out. Mr. Nick Swartzen is going to come out. Dave Weasel is going to come out. Fahim Anwar, Jimmy Shin, and myself. And I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited. What else, man? We don't have Ari on today. We don't have him on today. Still kind of figuring that out. I know you guys have had a couple thoughts about him. Before I crack into a few more stories, I just want to listen to a couple of you guys' quick thoughts real quick on Ari. Here we go.
Mark from
Hold on.
Theo. Mark from Kansas. I just want to call you and tell you about how much Ari sucks. Get him off of the podcast.
Wow, Mark being vocal. Let's go.
That's about it.
The way that you are speaking. But anyway, the reason I call, I guess, is that when you had that other guy on there, I haven't heard him say anything funny at all. Onward.
What up, Theo? This is Tyson. I just want to say I love Ari on the show. I'm from Georgia. Right now I'm just driving to pick up a little bit of Kalani pins at my brother's house over here. Pop on the way back and enjoy the rest of your show. Just wanted to give you a holler.
Klonopins at your brother's, man. Now that's an early Christmas, man. If you're over there in Georgia, that's an early Christmas. If you're already popping into some Klonopins at your brother's. Klonopins have hit my family hard over the years. And I'll say that outright and vocal, and I'm not going to point any fingers or anything like that. And I'm not going to even point all those fingers away from myself, but they have hit my genetics over the years, and I know that they've done that to a lot of people. I want to talk about a few more things, man. I also want to tell you I'm going to be in Huntsville, Alabama in 3 weeks, November 14th through 16th. That's actually like 6 weeks away. So, but come on out. That's at Stand Up Live. But I want to talk about, this Las Vegas, man. I want to talk about this for a minute because I know it's been on everybody's hearts. I know some people you're tired of hearing it. Well, look, I've been trying to think of why. I've been trying to think of why. You had this fella, and I thought a lot about it, man. And what I come to is this conclusion. You have this guy, Stephen Paddock, right? And some things about him, if you don't know, I know you know about it, but he in 1960, his father, when he was 7, his father went to prison for a series of bank robberies, right? His father was a bank robber, a famed bank robber. And apparently the family knew nothing about it. And surely if they were children, they didn't know. You don't have a perception of that, I doubt, at that age. But suddenly one day, the feds showed up and popped his father, and that was it. And he went to prison. He was on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list, right? So that happened to him when he was young. It was just something that occurred in his life. Some of his jobs, he was a postal worker and a tax auditor, okay? Pretty stressful jobs, I feel like. And notorious for stress, those jobs. These days, everything is, but those jobs certainly, right? He had a couple failed marriages. Love it didn't seem to be his strong suit. Okay, I know you've seen interviews with his brother. His brother seems, if you haven't seen him, his brother seems like all over the place. Disconnected. His brother seems disconnected. He had 2 failed marriages, and he did a lot of gambling, tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. He would live in casinos for a month at a time and playing video poker. That's extremely disconnected when you think about it. Here's a disconnected man. Love isn't working for him. He made a lot of money. He made a lot of money in real estate. He worked hard, had a couple of different jobs, worked hard, and then ended up making a lot of money in real estate here in California. Millions. He was a millionaire. Made enough money where his mother didn't have to work and his brother didn't have to work if he chose not to. Apparently, these are all sources, And also he had an instance in his life where one of his buildings was, during the riots in Los Angeles in the 90s, one of his buildings was in an area where they were expecting there could be a lot of looting. And he went on top of his building. This is Stephen Paddock. the Las Vegas shooter. He went on top of his building in a flak jacket with a gun and protected that building. Was up there just ready to protect. We must protect this house. He was ready. He was ready to protect his house. So he had that in him. He had that. He got this weird taste of probably power of what it was like to be on top of a building in a flak jacket, king of his domain. He owned the building and, possibly willing to shoot someone, at that time, I'm saying, to protect whatever he thought was his. So there you have it, man. You got this lady that he had, this Mary Lou, whoever she is. She sounds docile. She sounds just kind of like a pawn, maybe a fixture. That was a sweet woman, not a bad woman, probably a great woman. She probably catered to his demands. And it seems like when I start to look at this guy, that he catered more towards the dark sides of his life. I'm sure when his father went away, it was probably really tough, really, really tough. Just to not have that, to not be able to find love, to know that his father had chosen this other thing that was more important than him, this criminal life. And then you start to look at his life and he couldn't make marriage work. He didn't have any love, man. There was no love coming into this man's life. He was sitting in front of video poker. He was already a millionaire. So where was his desire? Once you're a millionaire, where's your desire? If you don't have any love, if there's nothing you're looking to spread or to create. And then I think there was, to me, I could imagine there was this part of him in conjunction with the father being a criminal. And there's a lot of rumor out there that it can be genetic. There's not a ton of proof, but there's more proof than there is not proof. I think there's a study that I read where if you have a family member who is a criminal, you're, I think, 4 times more likely to be involved in some sort of crime. Now, who knows what group they took that from. But anyhow, you have this guy. So you have Paddock, you have the crime, you have the father as the criminal, you have him with no love in his life. He had no love, man. And he was watering the dark sides of his life. He was choosing to give light to the gambling. Sitting there in front of a video poker machine, it's almost, you can feel how it gets sick after a while. You're just pressing a button and it's meaningless. Especially if you're already a millionaire. What are you even trying to do? Really, when you think about what are you trying to accomplish? You don't even care if you're losing tens to $100,000 a month. You don't even care. Imagine how just brainless that must have been. And so this dark part of him was growing. This dark part of him was growing. And I think he was just a perfect storm for something like this to happen. I think he was a perfect storm. 300 years ago, if some guy runs into a building with a knife and stabs 3 people, this is the modern day equivalent of that. This is that now. And I think he just was this perfect storm of just lovelessness, egomaniacal. They said he had a lot of ego. He'd been living for years probably as a millionaire, gambling. So nothing, money, there was no, just purposeless. This small element that his father was a criminal. This thing inside of him that probably maybe always made him wonder if he was to be a criminal. I think every boy a little bit wants to be like their father or thinks they are like their father no matter what. So that seed in him of darkness, of that seed with no, if that seed were on a teeter-totter, that dark seed, there's nothing on the other side of that totter. All his teeter is the dark arts, and there's no totter. There's no totter. And I think that that's why it happened. I think that's why it happened, man. And I know that's not a lot of a reason, but for me, that's a lot of reason. That it's, he didn't water the love side of his life. And I don't feel like that in my life, like I'm at that extreme, but at all. Let me say, I know sometimes I just kind of tail off at the end of sentences. But you got to water the other side of your life. You have to water the other side of your life. Okay, I'm not saying that everybody's going to end up being a shooter or a killer. But I am saying that this is your life. Okay? And your brain is powerful. It's a computer. Okay? And things can happen to it if you don't take care of it. And that's the thing. You have to take care of the good parts of your life. You have to. You have to fight against the dark arts that are inside of you. And I think that it's our job then. The toughest part is if you are somebody that feels love and feels like your life has love in it, then if you feel that something is wrong with someone else, I believe you have a responsibility to ask them how they're feeling. Fuck how people are thinking. I am sick of how people are thinking, right? How are they feeling? Because thinking is cool, right? But thinking is not more powerful than feeling, okay? I was reading yesterday that you cannot feel love and think hate. You cannot feel love and think hate. Do you know that? But you can think love and still feel hate. So what I'm saying is that feeling wins. And and maybe over the years, if people would have checked in with this man enough and asked him, how do you feel? What's going on? How do you feel? Because people ask you that enough and you're going to melt a little and you're going to share it. And I'm not putting the responsibility of this man. Of course, the man was mentally ill. His father was, I think, declared a psychopath. Who knows, at what level of illness this man was at. Obviously, he was the Andrea Gale, really. And I'll say it again, that this was just a perfect storm. Mark Wahlberg couldn't have saved us. But if you got love in you, man, and you got to share that shit. I know that stuff, I know it sounds a little bit, no homo or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? But you got to share that shit. Ask people how they fucking feel. Because asking people what they think, that ain't doing it anymore. That's not getting us anywhere. We got to ask each other how we feel, man. And I know I got a lot of this on me too. Like, a lot of people know that Ralphie May passed away. A friend of mine, and Ralphie and I, we weren't best friends. I don't want to put that out there. But when I was around Ralphie, he made me feel good on purpose. He did it on purpose. Some people, it's an accidental thing, but Ralphie made me feel he made me feel cared about, and it's almost hard for me to say a little bit, dude. Sometimes in my life, man, I'm so used to, I got so used as a child to, not feeling cared about that it is hard for me to admit as an adult when I am cared about, when someone does care about me. And it's not even a choice, really, that I'm making. Well, now it is. Now if I start to have that feeling, I have to be vulnerable and, and honor the fact that I know someone cares about me. But, for years I had to, man, I couldn't even feel if somebody cared about me. I couldn't even feel it. That's baffling, isn't it? I could not even feel it. And I know this is kind of like a lot on this episode, man, but fuck, man, we out here in these streets, We are out here in these streets. All right, let me tell you guys, I got to run and do a Comedy Store set. I'll be back in just a few minutes, but for you guys, we're just going to go right to the next moment. All right. All right, before we move on, I want to let you know that there is a way you can support the show. It's Patreon, patreon.com/Theo Von, TheoVon. You can go there and support the show. There will be extended footage from episodes that is available on Patreon. And thank you to our Patreon supporters who helped us to get our own new camera that you guys are seeing today on YouTube. So that's really, really exciting, and I'm very grateful to you guys for that support. As well, there's a tour shirt that has all the cities from this past Hampton Ain't Easy tour, and that the dates are all listed on the back, the cities, and the front is like a new Theo Von type of logo. I'm not trying to speak about myself in the third person. I'm just trying to describe to you what the shirt is like. You can check it out for yourself, and that's at theovon.com/store, STORE. I'm sorry to hawk goods, but you know what? I got to stay in business, dude. I got to stay in business, and I got to stay in business. I'm gonna hit some calls right here. You guys had a bunch of great calls, and one of them that's catching into my heart. Really, we're gonna catch right here.
Theo, it's your boy Ibby, calling from Las Vegas, Nevada. Calling to give you my condolences on Ralphie May, brother. I know he was a good friend of yours, and I hope you dealing and staying positive with the good Lord. And I just want to give my prayers out to you and to Ralphie May's family. My condolences, brother. God bless. Love you. Stay up. Love the podcast. Me and the fam.
Love you too, Ibby, man. Appreciate the call. For those of you guys who don't know, which I'm sure aren't very many, Ralphie May, and this is on behalf of the New York Times, a loud and large comedian known for his extensive touring and comedy specials on Netflix and other outlets, died Friday in Las Vegas. He had been in a residence at Harrah's Casino. He was 45 years old. Mr. May, born Ralph Duran May on February 17th, 1972, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, was a 17-year-old student in Arkansas when he won a contest to open for Sam Kinison. And that's where it all began. He moved to Houston, then to become a full-time comedian, working the circuit for years. And Ralphie May worked the circuit like nobody else. At first I didn't really know what to think whenever I heard that Ralphie had passed away. I mean, obviously I was sad, but it's wild because the sadness, it's really, at first I felt scared because it reminded me that life ends, that even if you're somebody like Ralphie May, who was out bringing joy to people and, and responding to his fans on Twitter and interacting. For a guy who couldn't move very well physically, he stayed mobile in the way that he interacted with so many people. A lot of it on social media, but just his touring, he wanted to be there. He wanted to meet his fans and see his fans, and it's an interesting dichotomy because he was immobile, physically. He wasn't. You weren't going to catch him playing soccer, So just amazing that he stayed touring as a way, to keep him mobile in a way. But he was just one of the nicest guys. He always made you feel cared for, and he was genuine. You just knew that he cared. A lot of guys in this business, you bump into them, you pass them, you interact with them weekly, and you don't know how they feel about you. You don't know. Maybe they don't care. Maybe it's just business. It's work. But Ralphie, it's just amazing how he cared about everybody, and how he just, the dude was fucking full of care, man. It was just remarkable. And I remember times where I would be feeling down about the business or doubting myself, and he would not let me do it. He would just remind me, that I was, like some type of William Faulkner or something he would talk about, or I don't know. He would just talk about the Lord or something just to lift my spirits up. And And yeah, I mean, I go through waves where I'm thinking about him and I'm watching his videos. And I'll share a great video below this on the YouTube that is a link to Bert Kreischer and Joey Diaz talking about Ralphie May. But he was a special man. And I'll say this, that Earth, as we know it, lost a very special man. And I cannot even imagine the wings that the Lord will have to hook to that man if he's going to turn him into an angel. I mean, sweet God, some real pterodactyl type wings. And Ralphie May tweeted a few years ago that he wanted us, if he were ever to pass, to laugh, to joke. And that's something he loved, man, to keep the joking going. So I appreciate the call. Still have a few voice messages going back with other comedians where we're interacting and discussing the loss and just thinking about it. But he was one of a kind. And if you haven't checked out some of Ralphie May's stuff, he was fearless. I mean, he would go into these black rooms and you could see, you can't show fear in these black rooms, in these black comedy rooms. And there were more than a decade ago and 20 years ago when it was, things were maybe a little more separate, or there were more specific black comedy clubs. But Ralphie May would be in there. I mean, and there's a level of pride as a white comedian, or maybe as any comedian, when you can go into an urban, if you want to call it, comedy room and do your job. Because there's a different level of intimidation in there. I can't explain it. It's like you are fighting for your life, because I think black people just in general are more vocal, more verbose, and just genuinely good entertainers. I mean, you take any average black person and put them up an average white person, and they're probably going to be more entertaining. Now, what facet that's in, who knows? But, I think that, so there's a level of intimidation as a comedian when you go in there and you go into an urban room. But Ralphie loved it, and there's some great videos of him online where you can check out and see exactly what he did. But I want to get to some of you guys' calls here. We're just trying to stay in the love, man. I know that sounds general and that sounds vague, but, when I look back and think about just this weekend of mine, being at this wedding and seeing people, I mean, dude, there were these bride and groom, and sometimes they would say stuff, and I'm thinking, man, some of this stuff seems cheesy. But the reason it seems cheesy is just because I'm not in touch with my feelings. It's not because they don't feel those things. It's my problem, it's my issue. And it was just an interesting time for me to see, what love looks like and what it is when people get together to celebrate it, and how weddings are such an important thing. I never really had that understanding before. People, I mean, it was just, I don't know, people were dancing and the music was ridiculous, and man, they passed out these, they had this little booth where you could take pictures and stuff with the different, headdresses, and, you could put on an Indian headdress or like a big glasses or, a funny nose or whatever. And then you could take a picture out there. And then they had this Tommy gun, dude. And next thing you know, they got some dude running around the dance floor with a Tommy gun. And I'm like, jeepers. It looks like fun. But just not the time for it. Not the time for it, guy, who may have been me. Anyhow, let's keep it moving. All right, let's crack into a few calls here. Thank you guys for hitting the hotline this week. Let's see what we got on the line here.
Hey, what's up, Theo? This is Colin from Las Vegas. And I'm just calling about, I'm sure you've heard what's happened out here and the sadness and everything. But, I had four people I know get shot, and a buddy I know that I've worked with for 3 years, he got shot in the face and killed.
Wow. And I'm sorry if some of you guys weren't expecting maybe this type of call to be on here this morning. Maybe it's not what you want to be hearing, but I think it's important to kind of see what's going on with some people in this area if this guy's willing to call in. And I appreciate your call, brother. Onward.
Pronounced him dead today. But I'm just wondering, man, is shit just getting too crazy out there? Can you not even go to a concert and enjoy it with your friends? I mean, I have friends tell me they were running from bullets. It's just crazy, you know. Can you not even go see a movie? Can you not go to the fair, sporting events? This world's just getting too crazy, and you see it happening every day. So I mean, it's a little more real when it happens to you yourself, and it's just got me thinking, man.
I appreciate your call. I think it's got everybody thinking, you know, but even more so, it's got me feeling. You know, because in your voice, yeah, I hear your thoughts. I hear you share your thoughts. But I below that, I can hear what you feel, man. You know, when you feel, you know, it sounds like you feel, you know, a little brokenhearted, you know, for society. Obviously for your loss. And my condolences for your friend that you lost and your friends that had, you know, I cannot imagine what that's like. And you know, I appreciate you calling and, you know, bringing this experience a little bit closer to us as listeners on this past weekend and to me. You know, it just felt, this thing for me felt intense. It just felt heavy. You're right. Are we safe? Can we go out? Can we do things? Well, here's the thing. What are you going to do? What else are you going to do? You going to stay inside, you know? And I'm not bringing this just at you, but I'm just saying overall, what else are we going to do? We're just going to huddle and hide and not live our lives? We're already locked into our computers and locked into, you know, our phones, and, you know, we're already becoming addicted to things. We're already becoming less and less human. I think this was just a perfect storm of disaster. I don't think this is going to become a regular thing. You know, and I think this is sometimes the devil lurks, man. I was talking with my brother about this evening, and he's saying, well, you know, they had that man, Ted Bundy. You know, he just used that as an example. But people thought that he was a mild-mannered, well-to-do guy. Women liked him. He seemed normal, aloof, but normal. And here he was. This man was, you know, a serial killer. Sometimes Satan lurks, man. You know, people want to say, oh, Satan and this and that. But nobody else has an explanation. Except the dark arts got that man, Stevie Paddock. The dark arts got that man. And all we can do is build up the love that's in our hearts, bro, and pass it on. When you see somebody, you catch that feeling that you know somebody has some struggle, or they're cold, or they're rude, break that moment, bust through that moment, instead of being like, man, fuck this person. Hit him up, man. Come at him even. You know what's ice cold? To come at a dude and be like, what's going on, man? Are you feeling something? Are you feeling upset? What's going on, bro? That's ice cold to me. That's the coldest thing you can do, is get real with somebody. You know, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect at this, but I am saying that I recognize it. You want to get real? You know, getting real ain't pulling a fucking gun. This dude was a wimp, right? Getting real ain't, you know, fucking somebody up, you know, busting a tooth loose. Getting real is catching somebody's feelings. What's up with your feelings, man? What's up with your feelings? Or woman? You know, what's up with your feelings, man? How do you feel? Because we can talk about how we think all day. But that shit's not getting us anywhere, man. So I feel like we've got to start to figure out our own feelings. And as we do, we've got to figure out we have to work together with others to share ours and get them to share theirs, man. I know this shit sounds, you know, vague and stuff, but I think it's real, man. I really, really think that it's real. We've gotten so caught up and so away from things that are realistic, you know, that we're all living in these almost little fantasy universes online and in these little bubbles and on Twitter and in these, you know, that we are missing out on some of the reality. We're missing out on that human connection. And when you get so disconnected and you don't water those good seeds inside of you, then the dark arts can prevail, man. And that's what I think happened in this scenario. Thank you for calling. Sorry about your friends. Onward, next call.
Hey, Theo Vaughn, this is your boy Tom from rural North Carolina.
Damn, Tom, boy. What you eating, that electric oatmeal, huh? Where you getting your oatmeal from? A cocaine dealer? Next, onward.
Hey, man, I just wanted to send you my thoughts and prayers on why I think people sending their thoughts and prayers is bullshit. Every time there's a tragedy like Sandy Hook, Vegas, it doesn't matter. Turn on your Facebook feed, everybody's devastated. Oh, man, so shooken. So shook. Oh, man, send your prayers. Gotta go to Starbucks. Let me get a Starbucks and I'm gonna send my prayers. That's just such bullshit, man. Like, I'm so fucking tired of social media. It's just, like, everybody's so fucking fake. Like, send your thoughts and prayers, dog. You didn't know a fucking person in Las Vegas, man. Like, I knew one.
Tom's heated. I can tell you you're heated, Tom. I appreciate you calling. You've called before. I appreciate you calling, brother. But you're a little bit heated. You don't like the thoughts and prayers. Let's hear a little bit more here. Tom, onward.
Random chick in Snapchat that happened to be there in Las Vegas had nothing to do with it. This chick's talking like she got shot. Thoughts and prayers, man. If you're gonna send some money, and then people will be like, "Oh, I made this donation." Don't tell me you made a donation. Like, did you make the? That just makes me think you made the donation just to say I made a donation. If you're gonna do good, you do good out of the goodness of your heart. You help somebody cross the street. You help somebody when they're down, man. You're not like, oh, man, this is a great situation to show everybody how great I am.
Well, Tom, we live in a me universe right now. You know, we really do. And, you know, we live in a universe where we just get caught into our own worlds, where we're the only person that really exists and other people are players. And when that disease gets dark enough, that infection gets dark enough, I think you can see things that happen with like Stevie Paddock, you know, where he's popping off and gunning. You know, but I'll say this about thoughts and prayers, Tom. I thought about this. I see a lot of people on social media right after these shootings and right after these tragedies sharing thoughts and prayers. And I do it myself. And other people say, oh, well, this has, you know, gun control and this and that. Yes, we may need some regulations. We need some changes. We need some laws. Okay, we need, how effective and helpful will they be? I don't know. But as an example, would it be nice maybe to have some different laws, some different regulations? Sure. But here's why thoughts and prayers helps immediately. Because that's what people want. If I'm lying on the ground and I've been attacked, I'm deficient in my humanity because of somebody else's sickness or illness. I don't want someone to tell me, but as I'm leaving the universe, they should have had better gun laws. I don't want that. I want somebody sitting there with me praying. I want somebody letting me know that they're thinking of me. I don't want to be alone. And that's what I think it's about, thoughts and prayers. No one who's saying thoughts and prayers is thinking it's going to heal the universe. No one's thinking it's going to solve the problem. Thoughts and prayers are an immediate reaction. And I think they're the reaction that anyone should have. When there's a tragedy, I feel like praying is one of the best things that you can do. Praying for somebody else's peace. All praying is meditating. And not thinking about yourself. But I'll tell you this, man. I'm sure the families of these people who were killed in this tragedy, the first thing that they're thinking isn't they should have different gun laws. That's not the first person they want coming to their door is, and whether they should or not, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that's not what they want first. The first thing people want, I feel like, is they want humanity. They want some piece of human touch, and that's where the thoughts and prayers come in. So I disagree with you on the thoughts and prayers, Tom, but I appreciate your calling. Let's catch one more call here about the Vegas.
Hey, Theo, what's going on? This is Sean calling from Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Thanks for calling, Sean. Fredericksburg. I've never been there, I don't think. But Virginia, one of the states. Let's hear it.
I just had some commentary I'd like to share following yet another tragedy over on this side of the globe. You know, I can't...
This sounds like it's being read to me off of a yet another sounds like something you would write and then read back to us rather than just speak straight up. But that's okay. You know, I understand for some people to call and leave a voicemail, it might be tough. And so I understand even if that is the case, but onward.
Can't even imagine how those who lost loved ones in Vegas might be feeling right about now. But on top of that, man, the response I've seen on social media and in the news has made me sick. I've seen people turning this tragedy into a racial or bipartisan issue, you know what I'm saying? People out here saying, see, white people are terrorists too. It's a result of white privilege in America. Or even people bringing politics into it, like calling out Trump, saying he'd rather be golfing or some shit rather than, you know, tending to the American people, helping out those in Puerto Rico, whatever it is, man. Or Hillary Clinton using this as a platform to try to take down the NRA.
Right. Look, I appreciate your call here, and you're right. There's a lot of this stuff going on. First of all, I don't need a president to tell me everything's going to be okay. That doesn't mean anything to me. You know, I don't need. Some people need that shit. I don't care if I hope that the president has some concern. You know, as a human, some presidents are going to be a lot more empathetic than others are. But most of the shit that all these politicians say, it just comes off like bullshit. You know, I think a lot of these politicians are just so disconnected from what regular humans' lives are like. You know, yeah. So I agree. I don't know if I agree or not. I can't even remember what the exact point you were making. But yeah, people are using it for different reasons. But I don't need my president to tell me everything's going to be okay in a tweet or an announcement. That doesn't do anything for me. You know, if there's aid that needs to be directed and the president wants to make an announcement about that, then that's the bells and whistles. You know. If the president wants to say, you know, in light of this tragedy today's a great time to pray for your fellow Americans, sure, I think that's great. If the president wants to share information on where people can donate, I think that's great too. But I don't need my president to tell me everything's going to be okay. Maybe some people do. I don't need that. Onward.
You know, it just makes me sick. I can go on and on. You know, these are friends of mine I see on Twitter, you know, talking about this kind of stuff. It's like, you know, are we better than this? You know, American people died. Citizens, our brothers and sisters died at the hands of an extremely mentally ill person. And rather than mourning or coming together, the reaction seems to be, let's cut deeper into this division, you know?
I appreciate it, man. It's true. It's a good point. You know, and I don't know. I think it's true. It's just we become more divided. How do we get to that next level where we then need to be unified again? It's going to take something huge, man. It's going to take something huge. And I sometimes worry that the media makes things so much worse than it is. I mean, all they care about is dividing us. I strongly believe that. I don't feel like there's any goal. And if anyone still believes that the media has humanity's best intention at heart, I think I would love more proof of that. And if you want to drop a call into that to help open my mind up to why I'm, you know, might be wrong about that, then let me know. But the media seems to just be, the media is the new Don King. That's what I feel like, you know. And in this corner and in this corner, they're just promoting, it almost seems like, the end of the world. That's what it seems like to me sometimes. That's what they're trying to do. What they don't realize is that we are on to them. That people see that. They see past that. You know? They see past that. But I agree. How do we get to that next thing that then brings us all together? You know, there's so much division these days. But there's not as much as they make it seem like on television. All right, let's check into another call here. Thank you guys for hitting the hotline.
Hey, Theo. This is Ryan. I'm in Minnesota. Just want to say I love your podcast, man.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate the call. I love Minnesota. I don't want to tell you what happened there. Onward.
Crack me up daily. I love it. Absolutely love it. I was just wondering, what do you think about divorce? Because I've been married for 7 years, and my wife just asked for a separation. She wants a divorce. She said we've changed. We don't have anything in common anymore. She got into some spiritual stuff, some weird healing things with rocks and whatnot.
Oh, she on them rocks. Now, you know what's crazy about rocks? A lot of women, when they get on that rock, they could drift out of a marriage. And now, and I'm talking crack, you know, I'm talking that, you know, that boulder cocaine, but I'm also talking about geodes, quartz, you know, quartzite, emeralds, and all of that. These ladies get on these big rocks, and next thing you know, they wearing, you know, candy corn underpants and, you know, drinking their own breast milk out in the woods. And so that's another thing you have to be careful of. It's almost as dangerous as getting into drugs is people getting hopped up on their own spirit. You know, people, you know, shaking their own dandruff into a cup and then, you know, freebasing a couple grams of it. Either way, that rockage can affect a marriage either way, you know, one way or the other. That can really, it can really take some of these women down. So keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open. That's what I tell you there. Keep your eyes open. Onward.
I don't understand it. We had a daughter we had a daughter 6 years ago, almost to the day, and she...
Well, happy birthday to your daughter. Onward.
She co-slept with her, so we haven't slept together for 6 years, and now she says that we've grown apart, and, you know, I reminded her that the reason we've grown apart is because you haven't slept with me for 6 years, and she thinks it's just fine that, you know, this is what people do. Our daughter's going to be fine because everybody gets divorced these days, and I'm not down with that, Theo. I believe in marriage, and I made a promise to God that I would stay with her for, you know, through sickness and health and all that stuff. So I was just wondering what you think about that.
I appreciate your call, bud. Okay, so you said your wife co-slept with your daughter. I'm guessing that they, you know, after your daughter was born, it's been 6 years now that they shared, you know, a bed together. And some parents choose to let their children sleep with them. Some don't. I mean, for 6 years, and you and your wife are not engaging in sex. It doesn't sound like for 6 years. To me, outsider's perspective, what would my just judgment be? It sounds like your wife has some issues. It sounds like your wife, you know, maybe wanted a child and is now just kind of riding this thing out, and that she, instead of dealing with whatever issues kind of she has, you know, she's gotten into this, you know, these new geodes or whatever, or getting hopped up on this, you know, stalactites or whatever, collecting these, you know, stalagmite chippings or whatever she's, you know, picking up out in the woods or whatever and praying to. She's doing that as like a sidestep. You know, instead of dealing with our issues, sometimes people, instead of dealing with our issues, we just go head deep into something wild. You know, something really, some type of chicanery that keeps us bent up so we don't have to straighten out. Sometimes it's easier to just take a bend instead of staying straight. You know, sometimes it's easier. That's what it sounds like. But it also sounds like you guys might have some codependency issues. I don't know. But I do know this. It sounds like an unhealthy environment to be in right now. You know, and the fact that you want to stay in there and you're putting it on God and stuff like that, I respect that. But God wants you to be in a healthy environment. You know, God wants you to be able to be healthy relationship-wise. If you're not sexually active with your wife for 6 years, you know, and she's not okay with that, she wants some separation, she wants some space, I think now's a good time for you to figure out what's going on with you. I really do. Continue to be a good father. I would say maybe find a therapist or a group therapy and start to share some of your feelings so you can get to the bottom of what's going on with you. That's what I would suggest, man. But also, I don't fucking know, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm afraid to even get married. Dude, sitting at this wedding this weekend, I had so many commitment issues and I had nothing to do with it. All I had to do was just, you know, not be crazy. You know, not do anything wild, not steal nothing. You know, people used to steal a lot, you know. And I was one of those people sometimes when I was younger. So just because you go to a party doesn't mean that shit's yours, you know. So, I can only, give you so many thoughts because I don't have so much experience with that. But those are just things from a ballpark listener. That's what it sounds like to me. I appreciate your call. Let's check in a little bit more here with another call. Thank you for calling.
What's up, Theo? This is Devin. I'm from Tampa, Florida. I had a question, man, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I think you're a wise guy.
Well, I don't know about that, man, but I appreciate you calling, Devin. Let's hear a little bit more.
First time, I made love with a woman, man. We were dating for a while, and I couldn't really fit it in, man. I don't have a big Johnson by any means, but there was just something going on. She had some, Trump built something in her vaginal canal, and so we had.
Oh, she had that small cavern, and that's that small cavern, man. Some women got that small cavern down there. It's more like a ear hole than it is really a vagina. Some ladies got that small cavern. Onward.
To resort to butt sex, man, and I put it in her butt. That was the first time I had sex.
Wow, buddy. You just throwing it out there like that, attacking people's buttocks. The old lunch hunter himself, huh? Okay, so the first time you had sexual intercourse, this was you was getting erotic, and you was inside of this young lady's buttocks. Onward.
Sex, and after that, man, I guess I'm just into butt stuff now, and I don't know if that messed with my head, but I find when I start liking girls and stuff, I want to put it in their butt, and it kind of ruins stuff because they don't want brown,
Well, look, buddy. I mean, some of that's getting a little graphic there, and I don't know if you and I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you calling. Yeah, you can't be out there hunting butt. I'll tell you that straight up. A lot of men out there, they sidestepping, the natural caverns of women, the appropriate caverns, cavern one, and they just out there hunting butt, trying to get, Hail Mary, trying to hit that Hail Mary, trying to get out, be, that dark spelunker, trying to go Dexter, you know what I'm saying? And you got to be careful, man, because it's some type of addiction, I mean, you have to think about this. The appropriate way, the natural way it is to happen is weenie, vagini. That's it. That's the natural way. So occasionally you're going to come across somebody, who likes something different, who likes some new stylings. You can maybe work it out with somebody. But you need to get back to a place where you're comfortable with that, I think, if you want to be in a healthy way. That's what I think. For me, anyway. Because, look, I'm telling you, I'm coming to you a dude who's watched a lot of pornography. Out there seeing them digital ass cheeks and all of that, and the titties flopping and things spraying out in the distance. People breaking furniture and breaking vases and stuff and doing sex. And they got brothers out there wearing their sneakers and they fucking. And this shit's high definition. And people, capturing that ass, People hiding jewelry and everything and spilled milk in each other's asses and everything. And you got to be careful, man, because that stuff gets addictive. And it's not healthy. I'm just going to tell you that right now. It's not healthy. So, I would say find ways to tone it down so that if you think you're addicted to it, addiction ain't cool, man. It's just not healthy. Okay? That's it, dude. All right, guys, we've had a pretty long morning here or long afternoon whenever you're listening to this. I had this one call that came in, and this was interesting to me, and so I wanted to share this with you guys right here. Let's take a peek at this one right here.
Hey, brother, it's Christian from Bakersfield. Don't look it up. It's not important. It's hot here. It's dry.
Bakersfield. Thank you for calling, Christian. Onward.
It's ugly. It stinks. I don't want to talk about Las Vegas. I don't want to talk about the NFL players kneeling. Huge Seahawks fan. It doesn't bother me. I'm going to a game in November. I'm not selling my tickets.
You heard him. He's going to a game in November. He's not selling his tickets. If the product's good, he'll go back. If the product's not good, maybe he won't. Put your money where your mouth is. Put your money wherever you put your money. That's where things are going to change. Onward.
It was more of an underlying topic that I find to be prevalent throughout all of your podcasts, which is the search for happiness, man. You know? And I have found, and this is just my opinion, is that happiness is something that we already are. Happiness isn't something that you achieve, you know. It's not like a goal, or, you know, if you have that baby, if you have that car, if you have that job, if you have this much money, you would be happy. I would be happy at this. I would be happy at that. Like, everyone is talking like this. But man, you're already happy. The problem is that people tend to just pile some of the bullshit on top of themselves. Bad relationships, bad situations, bad jobs. You know, jobs that they know that they could do better, or jobs that they're not happy in. They just stick it out with the asshole boss and the guy that's, you know, groping your ass or winking at you across from the cubicle.
That's this dude Sherman, this place I used to work at, man. This cat Sherman, his eyesight was bad, dude, and he'd grab anything that was warm, bro. I don't care if it was if it was a loaf of bread or somebody's nipple or thigh, didn't matter, boy. That dude would grope. He was a real groper, and I think he came from a group of gropers. I think in his house, they were probably people that couldn't see well, his whole family. When you can't see well, you got to grope. You got to grope to know who this even is. You know what I'm saying? You have to grope first before you hug or before you wish somebody happy birthday, because you don't want to make sure you're wishing the wrong person happy birthday and it's not even the right family member. So sometimes you got to grope first to get a little bit of feeling. You know, you got to hit that body braille. You got to hit that body braille and feel somebody down, and you catch a mole or you catch a, you know, patch of hair or something that's unique to them. But I like this call, and I'm here continuing to listen to it with you guys just a little bit longer. Let's get back to Christian. Thank you, Christian.
And they don't realize that all this is chipping away at what you already are. You're happy by default. It's relationships that are hard to break away from, even if it's family members. If relationships don't add value, if situations don't add value to your life, you have to be strong enough as a person to completely cut it off. Let go of all the bullshit, and you know it's bullshit. Social media. Stop looking at the fucking news. It's depressing. Get off Facebook. Delete it. Delete everything. And just live your life and enjoy the sunsets and enjoy your family. Enjoy your kids, your dogs, your fucking whatever, herd of elephants, whatever you have going on in the backyard.
Yeah, herd of elephants in the backyard. Got a little twisty there at the end. He might be investing in some of those geodes, you know, them geological stagtites, or the magical dice, or playing warlocks and wizards, or wizards and warlocks. But I love this guy's message, man. And that's why I wanted to wrap up today's episode with this call, because, you know, there's some righteousness in there. You know, sometimes the thinking is that we get tricked into thinking that we aren't happy to begin with. You know, that our natural default isn't happiness. And that's true. And we pile all this other stuff on and we stay in it. You know, right now, if I really ask myself, you know, what am I in that I don't want to be in? What situations, what things in work, what, interactions with other humans, loved ones, family, anyone. What am I involved in that I don't want to be in and that I can get out of? And that would just probably set me free. I bet there's a list of things, of good things. I'm not saying, you know, you just leave your family. You know, if you have responsibilities, you have responsibilities. And you take care of those. But outside of that, you know, what are we fucking milling around in, you know? Somebody's out here collecting shoes and shit. You know? I mean, Michael Jordan has all the shoes in the world. He invented half of them. You know? And he's still going to, his life's going to come to an end one day. You know, so I just like that call, man. There's a lot of happiness. There's already a lot of happiness. Sometimes it's just the fact that we stack all this other stuff on us. And the social media, you know, I go back to that kid from my hometown, that Barry, who got hit by that icicle. And at the time, they didn't really have social media, but his mom was so busy, worried about telling everybody everything, that she didn't focus on what was important. She was too busy out shouting from the rooftops, this and that, and, Mother Nature's a whore, and he could have gone pro. He didn't have no skills, lady. But he certainly could have probably had a much better relationship with his mother if she would have focused not on what at the time was their social media, just yelling, and focused just on loving her son and getting back to the things that are important and celebrating living, man. It's been a wild week of loss, It really has on a lot of levels. And, I didn't mean this episode to be a little bit of a downer, but I've just had some of these things going through my life, and some of them are going through you guys' lives. And no, we shouldn't be afraid to live, but at the same time, we have to live. If we're just going to sit there and fight, and we're just going to give in to the divisiveness, then we've already lost. Sometimes we as people have to rise above whatever's going on around us, even though it's the stuff that's around us is made to be so addictive. We can't shake this shit, man. People talking about cigarettes are addictive. Everything, man. There's nine varieties. There's cigarettes in every different variety. Every interaction. Twitter, sugar, sex, pornography, crack. Geodes, stalactites, people out there, wives buying crystals off the internet, trying to change their life, and meanwhile they sharing a bed every night with their 6-year-old daughter and making her husband sleep in the other room, and the husband acting like everything's okay. Come on, guys. And I'm not preaching at you, I'm preaching with you, because these are things I need to hear myself say, man. There are things in my life where I'm just going along. Maybe I'm not making the best moves for myself or making the best choices. And I think I just got to be reminded. So I appreciate you guys getting together with me to remind myself, and sharing this time together, because I don't want to end up in the dark arts, man. It's so easy. But I'm out here. I'm on the front lines of my own life. And that's where I'm going to stay, man. And I'm going to celebrate, dude. I'm going to celebrate living, man. That's what I'm going to do. And I want to say, God bless you, Ralphie. And my thoughts and my prayers are with you and your soul and your family. Ralph Duran. Ralph Duran. It almost sounds like a redneck clothing company. Oh, I got this Ralph Duran. I got this Ralph Duran. But a beautiful man, dude, and I hope your spirit lives on in so many people, dude. It almost seems like you infected millions. And I think maybe sometimes your weight, you had to be that big. I don't know if a skinny man could have pulled that job off. But thank you, dude. You inspire me, man. You inspire me to reach out to other young comedians who probably need to know that, that they're not alone if they're second guessing themselves. And I'm going to do that, man. I'm going to do that. I'm going to remember to do that in your honor. And I don't even think I'm going to have to think to remember it, because I think my feelings are going to remind me, But you guys be good, man. I know we're a little bit all over the place, but just trying to learn as we go. And thank you guys. You guys be good. Hit the hotline if you want to be a part of the show, 985-664-9503. And we'll add a little bit more show here onto the Patreon. And I'll Patreoners, I'll see you guys there in a bit. God bless y'all. If you believe in God. If you don't, then just Monday, October 16th. I'm in New Orleans. I'm in Baton Rouge. I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And so if the audio sounds a little bit weird or, loud or unloud or, tinny. Sometimes they say that with audio. It sounds a little tinny, a little reverb. I do not know. I don't know about all the different, specifics. But I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, man. So I'm out here at my brother's house, and I'm in the dining room, and and this is where we're doing the pod this week. So happy Monday. Hope you guys had a good one. I was in New Orleans for a wedding. Okay, I fly in Friday into the Big Easy. We'll go to this place, Pascal's Manali, right? And it's a place where you can get seafood. And seafood, you know what that is, man. It's different food out of the ocean or out of water. They say seafood, some of the stuff they serve in Louisiana easily could have been extradited from a ditch. You know what I mean? They got some things like, fuck, if they catch a dog that can swim, they will grill that thing up in some places in Louisiana. So the word sea, I think, is, that could be used or not used. Things in water or things from water, I think, is more applicable. I mean, somebody will grill up a fucking spare tire if they find, and call that seafood, But we're at this place, Pascal's. We hadn't even gotten to the hotel or motel or wherever we're staying. My buddy and I flew in. My buddy and his girlfriend flew in on the same flight. I'm dropping them off at their Airbnb. And everybody's hungry. We stop at this place. We order some food, right? We're sitting there chatting. Suddenly, somebody across the room starts choking or choking to death. I love, that's the thing about choking. It's like, people, I guess it's either you're choking or you're choking to death. There's not a lot of, middle ground when it comes to choking. And this person was choking, I guess, to death. It would take a while still to see. So at that time, they were just choking. I guess somebody has to die to be actually choking to death. Even though sometimes people are like, I was choking to death, but they didn't die. Sometimes people say I was choking to death. If you don't die, you weren't. You were just choking. But anyhow, whatever. This person is choking. And they stand up, and everybody's just like sitting down, like pretending somebody's not choking maybe to death. And her husband, this lady's choking, and she had kind of I don't know if you ever seen Napoleon Dynamite, but Uncle Rico, you ever seen that dude, his uncle, who could throw the football over the mountain? She had a haircut like his, kind of a haircut that had been blow dried way too long. You ever see somebody, their hair has been blow dried way too long, and it seems just lightly, not crisped, but just, it seems almost fried a little bit, air fried, not fried by something wet, but fried just by air. It seemed her hair seemed kind of air fried. Anyhow, she's choking, and her husband, I guess, is trying to help, but he's just like massaging her shoulders. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? And so I'm trying to make eye contact with him before I try to get over there and help, because I don't know if this dude, I don't know what their relationship's like. Maybe he's, trying to kill his wife or something. I don't know. But I don't want to fuck up their whole, whatever they're trying to do. Or he's, maybe she's horrible to him, and this is, he, planned ahead on this sandwich, and this is, the meal that's going to take her out. Maybe he can't afford a cruise. A lot of people take their spouse on a cruise and they push them overboard while they've been drinking. Maybe this guy's like, I'm going to save money on a $600 cruise ticket and just hit up this, $14, oyster po' boy here in New Orleans. Anyhow, so she's choking. This dude's like massaging her shoulders. So I'm like, I'm going to stay out of this because I don't want to, ruin whatever money this dude's trying to make or, whatever. And then the waiter comes in. Everybody else is just kind of chilling. I stand up and I'm like, does anybody know, what's going on over here? And it's a small room we're in. There's only probably 13 people in the whole room. And there's about maybe 12 tables. And one of the tables is a 5-top. So, I mean, this lady's like spitting and like, I don't know if you've ever been choking or not, but it's pretty intense. If you've ever been like choking possibly to death, that shit is intense, and your face and your throat starts making all this extra saliva. You start turning, your whole head turns into like a water slide. I mean, you start dripping out of your eyes and your nose and everything because your body's trying to lube your whole universe up so you can get this, whatever's inside of you, so it'll pop out. And this lady's, I mean, dripping. She's like crying, and there's, grease coming out her pores, and like, her ears are like saliva's just swirling out her ears and everything. I mean, this lady's lubed up. I mean, you think she's ready for some type of gangbang if she wasn't choking possibly to death. Man, I tell you, dude, this waiter comes over and he straps on the Heimlich, bro. This dude straps on the Heimlich. And he was the skinniest waiter. I'm not accusing anybody of different, extracurricular activities, but I've worked on the pizza line. I used to make pizza with a guy on methamphetamines. And them boys can put in work, and they don't weigh much. I mean, this guy I worked with would wear a belt, but he would have to tie the belt, and his waist was basically just a forearm with a spine in it, and some organs and some lean organs. I mean, this boy was lean. And so I've been around these fellas that's jacked up on them uppers, that they call it high diving, when you're on them uppers constantly, because you living at 60 feet. When your world is just a bouncy board up there. Anything can happen. That fall can be fast. And this guy, this lean fella, starts doing Heimlich on this lady. And this lady's she's a middleweight, light heavyweight maybe. She's like a Buster Douglas kind of, if you will, if you want to use fighting terminology. She's sort of a Buster Douglas. And as he pulls on her, his whole body is coming up off of the ground. So this guy is Heimliching this lean fella, dude. He's Heimliching her. It looked like a skeleton trying to fuck like a big animal. As he's pulling, his whole body is bucking on her. Like his feet are coming up off the ground, his momentum. And she's just, I mean, and suddenly there's just kind of like that, and just this big splash of whatever it was, whatever it jacked her system up, just kind of just attack. It just flew. I mean, the head liquid flew out of her eyes, nose, and mouth. The trifecta. I mean, it was artful almost. It was something you'd see at Disneyland around sunset when they do the big water display, and the water kind of jumps from one hole to the other, and they're playing the music, be our best, and the music's, everybody was kung fu fighting, and just the waters are jumping whoosh, and landing in other holes, and it's like this perfect thing. It was like that, man. It hit the air. And it was just like whoosh, and just splashed, and then everything was done. And it was over. And it was awkward, man. It was so awkward. And I didn't know what to do, so I started a round of applause. Because otherwise, I'm thinking here. Well, first of all, the lady lived. If somebody lives, hell yeah. Even if her husband had a plan, or he was caught up in the dark arts in his brain, or he was thinking about murder, he'd been Googling stuff that was dangerous and would come back to haunt him, on a Dateline episode, whatever. I mean, I could see some, fella thinking about taking his wife out via sandwich. That's a $17 kill, But this guy, I got started this round of applause. There's a round of applause going, and that kind of broke the awkwardness, man. And I've been there. Let me tell you, I have been there. Okay, I've had reactions. If I have, and this is and I'll know now because I'm giving this secret out to people. But if I have tuna fish and Gatorade, same time, just straight tuna out the can, albacore. None of the cheap shit. But if I go albacore, that white meat, that front meat, that breast of the fish, immediately, if I have that with Gatorade, my throat shuts down. I mean, closes up. I remember being in a hotel in Chicago. I'm hitting myself with that Gatorade, that thirst quencher, and I'm popping off I got one of them bags, them cold bags of of tuna fish. Because sometimes they used to have for a while, and they may still have them. Because it's hard to get into a can of tuna. I mean, I remember seeing a homeless guy beat open a can of tuna with an umbrella once in Santa Monica. And I'm like, fuck, that dude, you know, that's aggressive for some fish. You know, for some low-key fish, that's aggressive. So I know that I'm not that kind of guy. You know, I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not the guy that beats open a can of tuna for, you know, with a weather prevention utensil. But when I mixed it, so that for a while they had it in a bag, and it was just a bag you could seal tight. You would open it, and you could get to the tuna right there. Immediately, there's a tuna. It was kind of this metal pouch. Pouch, that's a better term than bag. So I was in my hotel room. I'm running late. I just hit the gym. I want to get, you know, electrolytes and get my protein in. So I hit up a 7-Eleven on the way to my room, grab me a bag of that snack fish, that low-key snack fish, and a Gatorade. And the Gatorade, man, right when it hit my throat and I had the tuna in my mouth and throat, my shit closed up, locked. So I'm in my hotel room and my shit is locking, bro. You ever see like on those movies where somebody attacks like or somebody, you know, tries to, I think like maybe Star Wars, where somebody tries to get onto the, you know, the space vessel and the doors start closing whenever they're, you know, finally are stealing it or whatever. And the sliding doors just start locking down like whoosh, whoosh. It was like that. I mean, my throat started locking. I mean, no entry. Dude, I am reaching down my own throat. I don't know if you ever reached down your throat for something, you know? I'm trying to think what I would compare it to. First of all, never would I think I could get my hand down my throat until I have to. Dude, I was just trying to hold my throat open so I could get air in and out of it. Man, my throat keeps locking. I try to call the phone, try to call the front desk. I can't. I'm like, go into the hall, right? Into the hall. I have my toothbrush in my hand because I'm trying to push that in my throat and like hold it to the side to hold my throat open. Go into the hall. There's a man, dude. A man. I'm pretty sure. My eyes were watery. Could have been a, you know, I mean, it's Chicago. It could have been a lesbian. Could have been a hardy lesbian. You know, a third-degree lesbian. And I am pulling on this person's pants, just pulling on the front of their pants by their pockets, like on my knees, like basically motioning this toothbrush down my throat. And at first, I think the dude, I think it's a man now, pretty sure. The more I remember, my memory's getting stronger. Because I have one of those memories that gets stronger. You know, some people's memory that gets weaker. My memory gets stronger. So I'm pulling on this man's front pockets and everything. And at first, I think he thinks I'm caught up in some, you know, some cocaine, and I'm probably doing some shit off a Backpage, and I'm running some illegalities, you know. I'm probably in my room raising turtles, you know what I'm saying, bro? I'm probably in my room, you know, making homemade pesticides and eating fucking barbiturate soup up in my hotel room. You know, I'm probably making bathtub gin and fucking, you know, making towels out of, you know, a dead woman's hair or something. He probably thinks I'm caught up in something. Because if you run out into the hallway and you're motioning the toothbrush down your throat, you know, that has a kind of like an oral sex kind of vibe to it. And you're crying and everything. But eventually this guy got what was going on, dude. And this man is holding a toothbrush inside of my mouth to keep my throat open. And after about maybe 45 seconds of that, it passed. It passed, bro. And then this dude is like, I gotta run. And literally took off. Like, I don't know if he was like a Clark Kent kind of dude that does this shit, you know, was just wandering around looking for people to help. But he helped me and took off. Could not even get his information. Could not even get his information, man. Fuck, I could barely get his gender or sexuality. So that's what happened right when I got to New Orleans. Somebody was choking to death or possibly to death. And, you know, and they didn't. And then they sat and they finished eating. They had dessert. And they had other things, snacks, you know. And I kept trying to catch the husband's face. He seemed, I mean, what was he going to do? Massage her shoulders as she died, which would be so awkward. You're dying, somebody's giving you like a nice massage. Interesting. But outside of that, I went to what else did I do? I went to a wedding here in New Orleans. That was cool. You know, we did the second line. I don't know if you've ever done the second line thing. I put it up on my Instagram this weekend on the video. And a second line is where you hire some adult men. And it's usually about like 85% of the men that do it are African American or black. And they play the big instruments and they play the jazz music as you walk down the street. So your whole wedding party gets in the street, and the bride has the umbrella, or the man, if you like a gay man, and you are the fancier, if you're the glass slipper of the crew, then you the one hold the umbrella, and you get out there and you roll down the street, and your whole wedding party is behind you, and they have these little white like little kerchiefs. And you just shaking that kerchief around like you're surrendering. It honestly looks like a bunch of people surrendering, but having fun at the same time. It looks like a bunch of alcoholics kind of surrendering. So we did that at the wedding. And the wedding took place in an old swingers den. The wedding took place in this old swingers place where swingers used to do, sex, I guess, and adult activities. And swingers, I know in LA there's some pretty intense swinger parties. I've heard about them, and I've actually been invited to some, and I haven't gone yet because I'm not going because my back's pretty hairy, and I'm not taking a hairy back to a damn swingers event. I just do not have that kind of confidence, and my butt gets kind of hairy too, and I'm not taking a hairy ass into a swingers thing. So I need to get probably, waxed up and maybe do some some different leg exercises and some reverse leg curls and stuff before I'm going to go to a swingers thing. But I wouldn't mind checking it out sometime. One time I was in Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri, and that is swinger country. That's a good place to taste another man's wife, or, to really spray out on some, local spouse that's not yours, or to be wild. And we went there, me and this other man, we went there. We were just comedians, we just show up, and we're supposed to stay at Lake of the Ozarks for one night. So we check in at a hotel because we're doing a comedy show there. So we check in at the hotel we always stay at, right? And he's the feature, I'm the headliner. We're not together, we're just friends. Fucking honestly, me and this dude didn't even know each other. We just know we're both comedians. And we both drove down from the airport in Columbia, Missouri. We get there, we get to the front desk. The guy at the front desk goes, "Are you guys girls only, or boys and girls only?" And I'm thinking, well, what the fuck is the third option for? Like, first of all, I'm like, what's going on? But then I'm like, what is the third option even? And then we realize that it's a swingers convention. It's taken over the hotel for the weekend. And it's a beautiful little resort hotel. It's right on the water. It's a nice place to probably, be by yourself, or I guess be with somebody else's spouse or whatever. But then we start seeing people just bringing in all these little, at hotels and motels, they got the trolleys where you put all your goods on them, you wheel them up to your room, and a lot of people bring their own food and everything. And these people were bringing everything, dude. I mean, you would see everything was from, Costco or one of those everything was Kirkland, like Kirkland brand, that big brand, like bulk. Kirkland brand, Rice Krispies, Kirkland brand lubricant, Kirkland brand like pool toys, they had everything. And these people, none of them to me were visually appealing, right? They weren't appealing to me. But it was swingers, right? And then you saw they had this one lady was bringing in the black guy, and you could tell he was the fucking hammer, You could tell this dude was flying. He might have gotten paid to come here and perform. He was that dark dagger, that air meat, that they was FedExing around the fucking country, probably to come in and just satisfy the regional, that regional coont. You feel me? So this dude's hitting the airways and probably just straight up drilling in different areas around the country. He's popping off, he's sprouting out, he's rooting down in some local wives. I mean, you could already see, like, these guys probably had posters, that all the white men were going to be like, go get him, black guy, like Terrence forever, shit like that. Because this dude was about to pop off on some local wives. But you had people bust, just people with wheat thins and all kinds of big snacks. And I'll tell you this, man, I wasn't into it at all until, I'm not even joking, till I saw the wheat thins. I love wheat thins, man. I don't know who did wheat thins or Pringles, but they fucking killed it. Now, those are kind of snacks that would make me want to be at a swingers thing. If you, I don't care who I land in. If they got a bowl of wheat thins or Pringles next to their orifice, or, a little side tray next to the body, dude. You know what I'm saying? Put some floaties on daddy's dick, because I'm going in. You feel me? Because I will perform if there is a side item of wheat thins or a Pringles. That's a feast. That's a feast for me and my libido. That keeps me up. But anyway, this place, they're like, oh, well, if you guys aren't here with the conference, then you can't be here with the swingers convention. And we're like, well, what the fuck, like, we have to be here. There was just a mistake. They booked us at the wrong place. But I'm also like, what the fuck still does girls and boys only? Like, that's not even, I guess that means you're open for whatever. I guess it does mean something, actually. But anyhow, everybody gets a bracelet. He said, you can't have a bracelet. You can't participate in any activities. But if you want to come down and watch the bingo night, you can. Like, whatever. We're just going to be here for one night. So we go do our comedy show. We get back we have a couple of beers at the place, at the bar, the comedy spot. We get back to the hotel, and we're like, dude, we got to see, we got to go over the mountain, to see what he could see, because that's what the bear did. Sometimes you got to be out there. You got to be a baby bear. Sometimes if you smell honey, you can't just sit on your hands. If you smell honey, you can't sit on your hands, because you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get any sweetener in your mouth if you just sitting on your paws, are you? Sometimes you got to stand up and open your mouth and follow your nose at the same time if you want to land your face in some of that fucking local sweetener. So we got up, and we start walking around and peeking downstairs. And downstairs, they are doing the biggest game of, what is it, with the red and the blue and the yellow? It's like the handprint and foot, and you spin the dial. Jeepers. You know what I'm talking about. They're doing the biggest game of that I've ever seen. There's like 40 boards hooked together. There's like, in the middle, there's 19 people who are no longer playing the game accurately, right? There's an old person spinning. There's one woman who is still playing the game, right? Still playing, like, right hand B or whatever it is, or right hand green. And then there's 19 people in the middle just, I don't even know what to say they were doing. I don't know if they were, some of it was sex. It was in the very middle, there was something vibrating in there that was just going off. And that could have been the hammer. That could have been the dark artist down there. That could have been, Deandro or whoever they had brought, the hammer. That guy could have been just DeWalt. That could have been DeWalt or Stahl, or Black and Decker. Whoever it was, that fella was popping off down there. You could just, and that's where the heat was coming out of, and everybody else was just riding off the vibes. And there was a lot of just puffy adults, a lot of seniors, a lot of people in their 60s and, and even 70s. A lot of that, Tampa cleavage, where you see a lot of women have that tan right in the middle of their breast, but it looks like they're probably going to get cancer there. Kind of that San Andreas fault. You can kind of see that they had some gold chains, a lot of bad gold, a lot of bad local gold. And then, we peak and then we scoot, right? We open the elevator. We're thinking we're going to go up the elevator. Man, That thing was just a vertical fuck trolley. That elevator was stacked, smelled like, oh man, smelled like somebody had left Chinese food in their trunk overnight. I don't know if you've ever done that or not, because it's kind of still got a little bit of a sweet smell to it, but you know that if you eat it, it'll upset your stomach. You know, it'll make your knees weak if you eat any of it. And that was the smell that was inside of that elevator at that swingers convention that we were not supposed to be at in the first place. But hey, that's one of the gifts of the industry. That's one of the gifts of comedy, you know, to end up in environments like that. But here we are. We are here in whatever day it is, man. I'm going to get into some calls because I got to go to sleep in a little bit because I got to catch a plane in about, let me see, in 8 hours I'll be on a plane back to Los Angeles out of New Orleans. So I'm going to catch that drive. But I had a great weekend. Spent it in Louisiana. Got to see my beautiful nieces and nephews today. Got to see my mother. Haven't seen my mother in about a year. So that was really nice. She has a husband that got Alzheimer's. So, you know, he's always talking about the war and different wars. And so if I see him, I always kind of reference, you know, I'll say, you know, welcome back from battle or some shit like that, you know, stuff that makes him feel good and makes everybody feel good. So that's something that I like to do sometimes, you know, just make him feel like a part of, you know, like they gave him, y'all gave him hell, you know, or, you know, stuff like that. So pretty interesting though. I had a good time and went to my niece's soccer game briefly. And then just play with the kids on a trampoline. So it was pretty joyous, man. I got nieces and nephews all, you know, from age 1 to 9. So it's just, man, you get to see how kids are, and they were all happy today. So that really lifted my spirits up 150%. You know, and no future swingers. I don't think none of them seem like they might get caught up in all of that. You know, but we'll see. All right, man, let me tell you guys what's going on. I got a new tour shirt. You can check it out at theovon.com/store. It's a tour. It's got all the dates from this past year. It's pretty sweet. So go there, grab that, support the podcast. You can also support us on Patreon, where you can catch extra footage and extra episodes. And that is patreon.com/TheoVon, and that link will be in the YouTube info part right there. Please subscribe if you're listening. If you subscribe, and if you're not subscribing, hit up the subscription. Become a part of. And if you got any advice or guidance, constructive criticisms, you can always let me know. Become a part of the podcast. We're shooting a new pilot for Comedy Central. So also, if you live in California and you have some issues that are going on with feeling emasculated in any way, or you feel like something that's going on in present-day society is testing your manhood, hit us up on the hotline, 985-664-9503. We're looking for some people to be a part of that. But no fake shit, no bullshit. Keep it real, man. Keep it 100. All right, let's tap into a couple of calls here. Thank you guys for being a part of things. Let's take it here.
Hello, Theo. Man, I'm just watching your appearances on the church. Those are two of the funniest fucking podcasts I've ever seen in my life. I think I've watched them like 10 times already. Fucking incredible. But, it's pretty...
Oh, wait, hold on just a second, man. That guy called in, but that call was so long I edited it down a little bit. Let's take it right here. Here we go.
Hello, Theo. It's pretty interesting hearing your perspective on white privilege. I grew up in a town of 500 North Idaho.
500 North Idaho, that is pretty white. I know there's a lot of mining up there. They're probably just mining, even looking for anyone that is not white. Like you have to dig pretty deep. Thank you for calling. Onward.
So I kind of get what you're saying. It's kind of a hard topic to get into because I think white privilege does exist.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it definitely exists. I'm just saying that in my life, I didn't get to sign up for it. I wish they'd have passed around the sign-up sheet because it was not a part of my life. Onward.
But, you know, when I was on a dirt road, you know, fucking my dad was a logger, just white trash as fuck, you know. people are sharing roadkill or whatever they shot that hunting season.
And logger, that's tree person. I don't know if some people think logger is somebody that's, taking dumps or whatever all over, but logger is somebody that captures trees. And I respect loggers, but also at the same time, pretty easy job. If you're a logger, you're hunting trees, dude. That's easy. First of all, how hard is it? Think about it, dude. I could think right now, if I really thought about it, I could tell you where there's probably about 80 trees. I could even probably draw them for you and draw you a sketch of them, an outline. So you'd have information. So not that tough of a job, but I respect it. Onward.
Yeah, I had like 7 people in my class. One girl, she was a goddamn squatch too. That girl was 6 foot when she was 10, ready to fuck some cock, man.
Whoa. Okay. You got a real cock squatch in your locality, huh? Let's hear more about this.
Wild girl. Wild girl. She did it too. Somebody had to, keep the neighborhood happy, keep the boys from stabbing each other. Big Carrie did it. Big Care Bear. Sickness, squishness. Good stuff. Anyway, I'm super stoned, but thanks for the podcast.
All right. I appreciate the call, man. Yeah. If, you had a girl named Big Carrie that was taking on sex locally for, to keep the neighborhood happy and to keep things at bay. And I think there always is somebody like that. I think there always is somebody like that in every environment, in every time period. There's some gal who's taking one for the team, and sometimes taking the team for one, who is, who's just, comes into their sexuality, at a point maybe others aren't, and really just pops off and makes it happen for everybody locally. And I remember catching up with a couple of those gals at different places. We had a gal in our neighborhood. It was a swim team. She was big on swim team, and she had shoulders like just like a 2-legged bison, brother. She just had shoulders like a fucking 5'4" French bulldog, man. She had shoulders just like somebody in a wheelchair who lived up a hill. You know what I'm saying? She had shoulders like that. And she used to set off a bunch of nuts. She was always setting people's nuts off, setting off the men's nuts locally, and kind of taking one for the team at a certain age. So I think we should have a time sometimes when we respect those types of people, because they need, sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need to take that edge off as a group, as a neighborhood. And maybe that's what these swingers were doing. I'm sitting here judging these people, and I judged them at the time, but if to be 50 or 60 and be pale, and to say, I'm going to take these thighs out and down by the, down into the Ozarks. I'm going to take these thighs out there and set them, and warm them up. I'm going to get these capillaries going and get the blood flow going. That's pretty brave, actually. It's a lot braver than some of the stuff that I'm doing. So maybe I can actually learn when I think back on some of these things instead of, maybe this is where I'm learning not to really, judge these swingers, but that sometimes a specific area needs to just, needs to let out. And that there's gals out there like Big Carrie that you just mentioned, sir, and that there's groups getting together just to pop off, just to blow seed and just, feel that vibe. Praise God, man. Let's hear a little bit more. All right.
Hey, what's up, Theo, man? A long-time listener here. My name's Davey, and I'm out of Kansas City.
Davey. Thanks for calling, man. I lived next door when I was growing up to a boy named Crazy Davey. And he used to invite one of the neighbors over, this other boy named Pug, and then he would hide on the roof when Pug was walking over across the street, and he would shoot him with pellet guns. But that was, just people, kids being kids, I guess. But that was Crazy Davey, and he was very, very, very lean and liked to punch at stuff and punch at people. And I remember him doing sex in the woods locally. Anyhow, onward.
I know you guys may have some preconceptions about Kansas City, but it ain't that bad. But I remember you saying something about calling about what it means to be a man. And for me, I'm a little confused because I look around at all my friends and everybody on the internet, and you know what the average male is looking for is they're looking for a woman. They're looking for a woman to get involved with and then marry. And you know what, Theo? I got no aspirations of that, bro.
Wow. I appreciate you sharing, man. I want to hear a little bit more about this. Let's continue.
I just, you know, I don't want to say it's an asexual type thing, but it's definitely a thing to where, you know, getting laid and getting a girlfriend is not my top priority. I mean, in fact, it's pretty far down on the list. I'd rather, you know, go home and go to work and just have a good day and play some music. And, you know, I just kind of wanted to weigh in on that and hear what your thoughts might be. And maybe there's other ones out there who just really don't put getting laid on their top priority.
You know, I appreciate this call, man. I really do. This is something that's been on my mind and my heart even recently, and even on my groin and loins. And that is asexuality, you know. It's asexuality. And I also want to say, I don't know if you were doing an impersonation, but you do a good impersonation mildly of that scientist that's in the wheelchair, the famous wheelchair scientist. I'm not sure what his name is. I don't know. They call it, you know, he's that black hole. You know, he's that David Blaine of space. You know what I'm talking about? That little fella in the wheelchair. Beautiful man. But anyhow, I've felt like this, man. I've felt like this before. You know, when all these people are chasing this leg and out there, you know, I've felt times where it's like, am I doing this just because it's something that I'm supposed to do? Do I really even care? What really is my drive? Like, what really is my desire, you know? Am I just being sidetracked? Because sometimes I would find that I'm chasing women not even because, and oftentimes I would find, I don't even say sometimes, oftentimes I would find I'm chasing women just because it's a habit. Not even because I'm trying to look for the perfect lady, you know, or that, you know, that I'm searching for love. You know, I'd find sometimes it would just be this habit that I fell into that I guess maybe it was my environment or my peers. You know, I'd listen to other people and I don't know if it's conquest, but just, you know, well, of course you want to feel attractive to women. But there are times where I'm like, is this really what I want? Like, what do you know, like, do I really have any? Because sex a lot of times just bores me, man. I just think it's so boring sometimes. You know, you're just banging your bodies into each other, just bang, 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 you know? Bang, you know? Here comes a crazy pump right here. Bang, bang. And it's not even that much joy. You know, it's just like, yeah, it just, you know, if it's not like one of you blows up at a certain point and just confetti flies out of you, you know, and you win or you defeat them, you know, or one, you know, it's not like, I think if there were some prize or something, you know, like if you bang somebody enough, like a trophy, like, you know, popped out of their ass or something crazy, I think that would be more. Or if there was an old, you know, some guy who never graduated high school, you know, smoking cigarettes and chewing on his last two teeth, you know, who gave you a prize, like a big stuffed animal or a fish with emphysema or something, you know. I think if they had something like that, you would find more joy in it. But otherwise, I have trouble finding joy in that sometimes, you know. And maybe it is. Maybe these days we're becoming more asexual. I mean, we don't need it to survive that much for sure. You know, it used to be you needed a child to help out. You know, you need a child to collect wood or get berries. You know, you can't make a pie without berries. Where's the fucking berries, you know? So you have a son. You know, you got little Carl or Clark or whatever your son's name is, and he's out there getting them fucking fruits, you know? So you can, you know, cover him. You cover him in the distance with a rifle or an archery piece. You know, you're doing your thing. You're being the leader. But now, do you need a kid, you know? Do our joys come from humans anymore? Maybe that's part of it, bro. I appreciate this call because I love this thought. I love this question. Where do our joys come from? Is it even other people? You know, I mean, we definitely lock ourselves away for sure. You know? I mean, we find like it's definitely we've become separatists. You know, it's like, and it's not good for you. I mean, it's definitely not good for you as a human. Now, as a robot, it's probably great for us. You know, but yeah, it's like, what else? Like, are we so addicted to, I mean, things are fucking addictive. That's the thing. I think I would love probably spending more time with people if I wasn't so addicted to some of this other stuff. You know, I get addicted to dude, I watched a show on Netflix 2 weeks ago. Next thing you know, it's 11 days later and I've watched, 12 episodes. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? It's like you're in a show coma and you're just going through episode to episode. It's just some of it's so addictive. It's so, it's so shot in such a great quality and some of the content is so good. You can get addicted pretty easy. So I could see how sexuality, like, who needs that? I just get, I got 9 4K episodes of Ozark. Oh, I feel like my brain just came for a month. I'm good. I don't need another human. So I think that's something you have to fight if you really want it. But maybe it's not for everybody. And I also don't think it is for everyone. I think you have a little misconception there in the think that everybody's out there looking for somebody. I think these days a lot of us are out there. And though we may be looking for somebody, I think somewhere in our mind we're also wondering, do we really want somebody? Or do we really need somebody? Or are we just under this old tradition that has us looking because we feel like that's what we're supposed to do? Where to really, it's a weird generation right now. It's a weird generation, but I appreciate the call. All right, let's crack into something else here. Here we go.
What's up, Theo? This is Mackenzie from Mechanicsburg, Ohio.
Hey, Mackenzie from Mechanicsburg. I can't remember if you called before or not, or if I played this call, but let's go.
I was just wondering, I know you have a problem with pornography. I believe I also have a problem because I've been with my girlfriend for about 2 years now, and probably only had sex 10 to 20 times. And I think it might be because of pornography. I tried quitting. I went a week, but then I come back with a vengeance. Just jacked off like 5 times in one day sometimes.
Wow. So this gentleman from Virginia, and that's Virginia's for lovers, bro. But from Virginia is saying that he's been married for about 2 years. Is it married or just girlfriend? But they've only had sex about 10 to 20 times. And then sometimes you go in these fits where you jacking off, you spraying out. You know what I'm saying? You petting the dragon and that dude's firing off. Blowing Skittles out into the universe. You busting them straight up galactic shots, boy. Your dick's having a straight up DNA asthma attack, boy. And spraying out, killing local invisible fires with that splash. You know what's good. And sometimes, sometimes you go in these fits. Because masturbation is dangerous. You know what I'm saying? If masturbation were a person, he would be wearing a dark, dirty cape. With dirt on the bottom of the cape and dirt around the top, around that brim dirt. And he would be saying nasty stuff to you. And wanting you to come over under his roof. Wanting you to come up under his cape and just be nasty. So you got to watch out. You got to watch out for masturbation, man. And you need to set some kind of regards for yourself. Some type of barriers. If you got to tape your arms down at night. Or you need to get heavier sheets. But you might need to do something, Or get a neck brace. Get a weighted neck brace and wear that while you rest. But if you popping off constantly on the internet, I'm telling you, it's a dirty, addictive behavior. And and people constantly will second guess me on this. This shit is killing men, bro. Okay? Think about it. What if they had a soup and they're like, oh, this soup is fucking amazing, but it's also killing you? Would you eat that soup every night? Well, that's what you're doing. If you hopped up on these pornographers, if you hopped up on these local high definition, buttholes and everything, and these splashy crotches, then that's what you're into. So you need to get it together. That's all I'm saying. Because the pornography is dangerous. It is dangerous. It's a dirty road. It is a dirty slope. And I'll be damned if you're going to be able to, wear white shoes and do it at the same time. And you know what I'm talking about. But man, I'm sorry that you're having that trouble because I've been right there. I've been in the depths of it. I'm 2 days clean right now off that jerk. And I'm happy about it, It's tough. It's tough, dude. But, we're talking tonight about the asexuality and about the group sex, and the tag teaming and the, summer slamming that puss, you feel me? Like these people out in Lake of the Ozarks are doing, these swingers. And if you are a swinger, I want you to hit that hotline, 985-664-9503. I'd love to know a little bit more about what that universe is like. But I'll say this to you, buddy, and I appreciate you calling, is that I wouldn't evaluate it on the number of times you guys have sex. I don't think that matters that much. I really don't, because I've had relationships in my life where I had some decent sex, when I was young, and I think I've always thought that sober sex is for children, sober sex is for children. It is best served for two people under the age of 18, consensually together. But, I don't think it matters that much. If there's love there and you guys are connection, that's what matters. Because you're coming up on the future of your life. You know what I'm saying, man? That fucking gonna die out. That fucking is gonna die out, dude. If you went off the interstate somewhere and you walked into the woods and you looked around, I bet you'd find a lot of people's libidos. A lot of married couples. Their fuck history is just milling out there in the middle of nowhere. Because that's tossed aside at a certain point. I think you keep some sensuality, yeah. But that's not what it's about. At a certain point, it's about a connection. It's about moving forward. It's about having a family and those sorts of things. To me, man, at my age and at my time in life, I've been through some young trim, I've been caught up. I've been caught up in some of that, some of that soft wallet out there. But the thing that keeps me and gets me the most these days is that warm hug from somebody that I love, somebody that cares about me, and that's what makes me feel the most. So I wouldn't be hard on yourself. If that's what's going on in your relationship, I wouldn't be hard on yourself, And if you're doing jerking off, though, I would find some ways to curb it. Because I think that you think it's not helping you. And there are groups you can join online, NoFap. You can check that out. There's a lot of books about it. There's audio tapes and stuff you can listen to. You can go to SAA, Sexual Addicts Anonymous. There's groups. You can get a sponsor. I know it sounds crazy, but, at 9:30 p.m. when you're about to spray down, when you're about to just, clean your sink again, you can call up a dude you barely even know and tell him to talk you off of that lotion ledge. And those men are out there. All right, let's take another call here.
What's going on, Theo? This is Alex calling from Medellin, Colombia.
Ooh, Colombia, boy. Ooh. I am glad I was not born in Colombia, even though my father's Nicaraguan, and I'm Polish Nicaraguan. If I grew up in Colombia, and I've said this before, I would have got an 8-ball for my 10th birthday, and I never would have seen 11, boy. I'd have been a couple grams deep, dude. I've been eating balloons and hiding fucking slices of cake in my ass, boy. Onward.
I was wondering what your thoughts were on relationships while traveling. I pretty much travel for a living, different countries, and it seems like I'm always just cycling through females, but still wanting that relationship bond. And I was wondering how you juggle stuff like that. Thanks for everything, and keep it up. Bye.
Thanks for the call, man. I appreciate this call. Well, I'll say this. It's hard to know how you'll behave until you're in a settled place. And I found for a long time I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to settle down. But at the same time, I'd be out there, checking out the local flavor, if you feel me. And I would always be angry at myself. I'd be like, man, you want to settle down, but you keep fucking up and doing this, or not fucking up, but you keep being out there. Sharing yourself with trollops, and dazzling around with these fucking little, these little fucking glitter bandits, and people that, chicks is just already got their toothbrush in their purse. And they're just trying to, meet a man somewhere late at night at a Holiday Inn or a Days Inn and just jerk them off. And you already, you're caught up in some of this. And some of it you'd find a little bit of love here and there, but a lot of it was just lust. A lot of it was just libido fireworks and snap crackers. A lot of it was just a lot of that. So you weren't really getting some, but I would be hard on myself. I'd be like, man, you keep, I thought you were trying to find somebody. I would always be hard on myself. So I'll just say this, man, if you're going to be on the road, it's going to be really tough. It's going to be tough not only for you, but it's going to be tough for whoever you meet. So in the meantime, I think, just date if you're able to do that. Just date. If you get into somebody, I don't know if I get it too serious because it's going to be hard. And you could easily end up hurting their feelings and hurting your own. And I guess, I'm just saying that for me, man. In the past, I was not able to do it. I get on a relationship or get, caught up. Some lady, you start holding hands and watching a favorite television show. And next thing you know, you don't mind if she got a few whiskers or whatever. And that's where you start feeling some love. But then you're out on the road and you still find yourself, trying to talk to the lady that work at the Save a Center, or checking groceries at the Whole Foods, even though she's skinny and her body's a little bit lopsided. Cause maybe she got a hip issue, some dysplasia, but you still find yourself flirting over by the oranges. And, it's just, you could put a lot of pressure on yourself, so for me, I could never do it, man. I was always lying and I was always on the run, and I feel bad about it a lot of times. For me, I just couldn't do it. I would get myself caught up. So if you can do it, man, more power to you. I think it just takes a strong man, and it takes a brave woman, and vice versa, because they're home alone a lot and they're susceptible to meet somebody. So for me, if I could go back in time and do some of those things over, I would probably just stay in more of a dating environment. And as I've gotten older, that kind of stuff's gotten a little bit easier to deal with because I'm more of an adult. But when I was younger, man, that shit was, that was hell, boy. That was straight hell. But look, I appreciate you guys calling, man. I hate to jump off early tonight, but I think I got to. Dude. Let's hit maybe one more call here. Here we go.
Hey, Theo. Connor calling in here from Louisiana.
What's up, Connor? I'm in Louisiana right now, man. Onward.
I was just calling in with a little problem that I have, and a pattern that I've noticed that I partake in, or have partaken in over the years when it comes to women, is I will be really interested in a girl, and let's say, she begins to start showing interest in me.
Okay, you're interested. She shows interest. Onward.
And there's this weird thing that I do where when she begins to show interest in me, then I begin to lose interest in her.
Could be a little bit of homosexuality, maybe, but let's go here.
And let's say we go on a date or whatnot, and I'll end up, when she starts showing initiative, I end up getting really turned off, and I don't know what it is. And this happened with a girl a few months ago. I went out with her, and we went and did a few things. I don't want to give too many details, but we went out.
Probably talking about drugs, or actually you could be talking about laser tag or something. Sorry, onward.
On a little date. And it went okay. And she hit me up to hang back out with her later on, and I just kind of self-sabotaged. I don't know why, and I kind of just stopped showing much interest in her, stopped answering her text messages, and then she kind of just went quiet after that.
All right, sorry, we had an audio issue there. The batteries fucking shit the farm or whatever. Jesus, I'm in my brother's living room. I hope I'm not keeping them up. I hope one of the kids isn't awake. They sleep right above this floor. If they're hearing this, dude. Onward.
Well, about a few weeks after that, I started thinking to myself, shit, I fucked up. That was a really pretty girl that I went to school with, and we have a lot in common. Why did I do that? Well, the other day I saw her out with another guy that I know, and it just really made me feel like shit, because, kind of pangs of regret. Why did I sabotage that fucking situation? I have no idea. I was thinking maybe you could, shed some light on the situation as to why I seem to, be turned off when a girl starts showing interest in me, And B, why do I have this tendency to self-sabotage my relationships, even if it's somebody that I think I might like?
All right, I appreciate the call, man. You know what? I can relate to some of these behaviors. Because it seems like you are just going to the next thing. Once a girl shows interest, that means it's a girl that you can get, that you are able to get. So then you're out looking for something next, you know? So that means either you're self-sabotaging. You're not able to make yourself happy, you know? And so it seemed like maybe you're not looking for the right things, you know? You're probably not even able to see what some of these women are really like if you're able to move that quickly from one to the next, you know? And this is just from experience, man. You know, I've missed out on some decent ladies in my life because the second that they were interested, you know, or wanted to catch a little bit of this root, that I'd just leave them in the forest. You know, I moved right along. There's something sometimes that's, once somebody's into us, we're no longer into them. You know, and I think sometimes you'll just keep going through this until you find that a situation that's equal. You know, but I think it would be nice to maybe give yourself a chance to see what it's like if you stayed in it, you know, if you just stayed in some of that. Let me listen to the end of your call one more time so I can see if I can relate anymore.
We have a lot in common. Why did I do that? Well, the other day I saw her out with another guy that I know, and it just really made me feel like shit.
Yeah, it's just like you want everything. You know, it sounds like you want it all. You know, you just want it all. And look, man, I was there, dude. I'd be at a party, and we'd get the beer, and then once we had the beer, we needed to be at, we'd just get to a party, and if the party was good, I'd be like, oh, there's got to be a better party going on. Like, what do you mean there's a better? We fucking lived in a small area. We were lucky to have any party. There weren't no better party. What do I think? Somebody got a cannon or somebody doing like fucking mule rides, or they got free cocaine out there. I was always thinking there was something better. And always wanted more. There always had to be, then this, you know? Oh, we got a van? Oh, then we should get a water slide, you know? Oh, we got a water slide? We should get a fucking, a damn grenade. You know, it was always, there was something, I needed something better every time. Nothing was ever enough. Nothing was ever enough. There was never any, I'm just happy to have this. So maybe some of that's it, man. And then, of course, you're going to feel bad because your brain's telling you want everything. Your brain's telling you, oh, you got to have everything. You know, you should have this. You should have that. Oh, she likes you. Oh, there's got to be somebody else that likes you. You know, it sounds like your brain is taking control of you. So it might be nice to find some ways to try and battle that brain. You know, find some gratitude. You know, I make a gratitude list, man. I probably do it 5 days a week. It just reminds me to be a little bit more, it slows my brain down a little, to be a little bit more grateful for what's actually in front of me, or at least think about it. And it can be simple things. You know, I'm grateful for so-and-so and a reason why. That's what I write. Like, you know, I'm grateful for Diana, you know, because she, you know, she stopped by my work the other day and brought me a snack. You know, when she does that, it makes me feel like somebody cares about me. Like gay shit like that, man, but it also makes me feel good. You know, when that kind of stuff happens, you just got to remind yourself. So you got to remind yourself, I think, of things that are, you know, a little bit of gratitude, because that can slow you down. And then you're not constantly thinking of what else can I have, because you'll have a little bit more appreciation for things you do have. Now, with that said, you also might be homosexual. You know, you might be into cutting up some of that male butt. You know, you might be thinking of some of that, that man, you know, that man back, you know. You might be thinking of just, you know, being deep into another man and just kissing his spine at the same time. You know, I don't know. There also could be some of that. So if you want to investigate, maybe, you know, and I'm not saying you need to be with another man, but if there's a friend you have who is open to at least just lying next to each other, you know, in swimming trunks or in, you know, some loose-fitting jeans, something like that, and just seeing what it feels like if even the sides of y'all's arms or sides of y'all's legs are next to each other. And I would take that in a slow measure, but if the side of your arm feels okay next to him, then touch your leg against his leg. I'm not saying anything crazy. I'm not saying genitalia, but I'm just saying, feel that vibe out, because you might have that homosexual activity going through your blood, and you might want to, that might be something you're into. Because in the meantime, you'll find women forever. Of course, it's not this woman, it's not this woman, it's not this woman, it's not any of the women, because your libido might be hunting for a man, hunting for that, more like chromosome, something, somebody whose body mirrors your own, and that's going to be probably a male body. So that could be it, man. So that would be the two things I would try, maybe, to see what's going on. I would try to be more gracious, for what's going on, people you're meeting, and I do that by having a gratitude list, or I would try homosexuality and see if that fits you. That might be your glass slipper. But we've talked a lot about it tonight, man. We've talked a lot about it today, or whatever day it is, whenever you're taking this in, about sexuality and what's going on. And I think we're a little bit on a new horizon there. And I think you have to really ask yourself, what do you want? And not be afraid to try it, If you want to try, if you, everybody's, we all service we all fit somewhere in the sex world. Some people like, tons of sex. Some people don't like any, but just don't let the world or the environment or somebody else tell you how you should be sexually, because that's where you start going astray. And I've been there. I remember actually one of the first times I ever partied on drugs, I was here in Baton Rouge, and I caught me some cocaine, and somebody said it was performance enhancing drug. So I went for a run. I'm thinking performance enhancing, I'll go for a run. And I ran 8 miles on a couple grams of cocaine. I'd pull off this runway, this, track I was running on, or this, just went all around the city, and I would pull off and do me a couple bumps out in the palm fronds or out in the woods, and then jump back on that track and keep running. And I was wearing a pair of orange Umbros, and just running. Dude, I was running so fucking fast, boy. Because I'm thinking this shit is performance enhancing, and I'm about to up my ante. I probably did a damn 4-minute mile, son. Running on cocaine and Umbros. But half that time, I was probably thinking about leg, thinking about trim, thinking about ladies. We all got something that motivates us, We all have somewhere where we fit in the sexual universe. And that's okay. But I think it is cool. I think it is good and healthy to ask ourselves what that really is and be confident in it. If you want to try something new, try something new. And if someone thinks you're weird for trying something, fuck them. They're not brave they're weak for not trying it. Because it's a wild game these days when it comes to sex, And I think that everybody, to each their own. But don't be afraid to be asexual. Don't be afraid to, to get on that elevator, that vertical sex trolley. Even if the black hammer's in there, putting that white crotch to sleep. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to get out there. All right, man, I got to shut this down this week. I'll see you guys next week. And I'll talk to you guys soon. There will be links at the bottom of the episode on YouTube. Thank you.